You there, Jay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Let's get a check.
Okay, I'm on now.
You're on. I hear you. I heard Leland,
Okay.
so we're good. Pushing your Facebook now.
Okay, thank you. Makes perfect sense to me.
All right, here we go.
Hello, welcome to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Traynor, and my co-host is here, Leland Fakhrizadeh, and we certainly wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and Happy Holidays, whichever you prefer to say.
How about Io Saturnalia? Does that work?
All right, yeah, Happy Saturnalia.
The old Latin?
Yeah. And, well, it's been a while since we've been talking to you, and in that time, Leland, what happened to you?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, you...
Oh, you mean my COVID episode?
Yes, sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I woke up one morning with some pain in my chest and a slight chill, and I just thought it was a flu, because I haven't had a flu in 12 years, probably, so I was expecting it. I was due,
Right.
And I went in the following day because they wouldn't see me that day, and I was diagnosed on Saturday evening with a positive from those people who claim to know these things. So, but I was just lethargic. I just had fatigue.
So you had very mild symptoms?
I never had anything that would, you would hear about on television.
All right.
Very, very light symptoms.
All right. Well, we're all grateful for that. And,
thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I'd almost forgotten about it. I've been out of quarantine now for 2 weeks. So.
Okay.
But I want some injunctive relief.
Yes.
That's the relief I want.
And that's what the Supreme Court did not do for the Pennsylvania lawsuit, grant the injunctive relief that he sought, which would be to invalidate the safe harbor day, the actual choosing of the electors by the Pennsylvania legislature.
And didn't you think they were going to take that up? It was just right there.
Yeah.
It was low-hanging fruit, didn't you think? And then later I thought, well, the Texas one makes actually more sense.
Right. But they didn't dismiss the whole suit.
Right. No, that's right.
Yeah, which none of the mainstream media seems to want to admit.
And there's a separate suit in Pennsylvania, also,
right,
in addition to that one.
Right.
Yeah. So we're in a cornucopia of
lawsuits,
of legal action here.
Yes. So the Kraken is still bound. It hasn't been unleashed yet.
You gotta love Sidney Powell. I don't know what her deal with about not voting is, but I get that. But she's clearly with us. She's one of us, as the MI5 used to say.
But extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, and the idea that this is the election is an international communist conspiracy. I think. I heard John Foster Dulles called, and he wants his paranoia back.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, I'm right with John Foster Dulles, and I never thought I was, actually, because he was a CFR member. But I'm of the opinion that this was the only way they were going to be able to get rid of Trump.
Yeah.
Electoral fraud.
Okay, but I mean, that it was orchestrated in an international fashion has not been proven.
But they don't leave calling cards behind.
Yeah,
there's no way.
Yeah. So, but anyway, an affidavit is a prima facie proof, evidence to present to court, but it has to be substantiated through cross-examination and so on, and that has not happened yet.
Well, and I'm not sure we have the time for all of that.
Yeah.
Which is why the Texas suit is so interesting, I think.
Right. Because the Texas suite, if you're not familiar with it, the state of Texas has launched a suit against the other states in question, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, claiming that their use of the extra time, they're changing the rules of their state election process in order to accommodate the mail-in ballots. I think that's probably the best way to put it, is unconstitutional. And it...
because the legislatures have plenary authority over these matters.
Plenary authority, yes. Yeah. That means they have absolute authority.
Right. I don't see how the Supreme Court cannot take this up.
I think, well, Judge Samuel Alito, is concerned about it. He sees it as a separation of powers issue. Yes,
it is.
Yep. So we're going to have to see what happens. I understand there are at least 7 other states, maybe 10, that so far that have signed on with the Texas complaint. So we'll see. And it is docketed. I mean, they do have original jurisdiction. Because of the conflict between the states. Yes, so it's automatic. I mean, the door is open. Right. So that was I like that kind of legal move. I like aggressive legal moves trying to defend the Constitution. Oh, yeah. What I liked about the Pennsylvania opportunity was that the Secretary of State had acted so authoritarianly. Right. And it should have been, and I thought they would, but that was, in the aftermath of the decision not to take the case, it occurred to me, oh yeah, we've got as many as 10 states that are going to be enjoining the Texas suit. So this is the big enchilada right here. Right, I think so. I think it's going to supersede, although it's similar to the other suits. Yes. I think probably they'll consolidate the Kelly suit and all these other suits into one, hearing. And the Equal Protection Clause, which is going to get a lot of attention. I mean, if you talk to anybody on the street, they've heard that expression. They may not fully understand that, but I mean, the Supreme Court has invoked it so many times in the course of my lifetime that I'm sure that that's the flag that's going to get a lot of attention going into however they resolve this. And you don't necessarily have to get into international communist conspiracies here, because what you have is an obvious, blatant, at least coincidence, perhaps directed attempt by all of these officials to circumvent the legislatures and decide on their own that despite the fact that the scientists were saying that you could vote in person, and Trump and others were warning them that they're not going to stand for these mail-in ballots. But when you think about it going back over the last 4 years, they had to get rid of Trump one way or the other. Right. This is the other.
Did you know that 4,000 years ago, the Earth's magnetic field was 5 Gauss? Over the last 165 years, scientists have measured the Earth's magnetic field and found that today it is only...
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Join the conversation. Call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Traynor. My co-host is Leland Fakhrizadeh. And we're here to discuss the controversies over the election, and also what's going to happen if Biden is confirmed into the presidency.
I shudder to think. But
Yeah.
God.
The obvious thing is that there would be, I mean, whether or not you believe China has had spies at the top echelon, I'm sorry, but first of all, we have spies all over China. They're always rolling up our spies there.
Since 1947.
Yeah. And we didn't lose China. I'm sorry, but, China is China. We didn't lose China because we didn't have a claim to China. So when
no, there was just an arrangement going back to the Nixon years that China would pay for the new global design.
Right.
They had nothing but cheap labor to exploit for the rest of the world.
Right.
That was their part in it.
Right. So you're saying that we started to have a discussion on free trade and fair trade on the break.
During the commercial, yeah.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that corporations must not look for lower wage labor?
No.
That is wrong?
No, there's nothing intrinsically the matter with that.
Okay.
No. It's just that their motives have to be
Whose
scrutinized.
motives?
China's motives.
Okay, so what is China's motive besides developing their own country?
They're not looking at it in the context of national sovereignty. They're looking at it in the course of preeminent design on the planet. That's what the globalism of the CFR is all about. That's why Kissinger invited Zhou Enlai, invited Mao Zedong into the Confederate globalism that was emerging at the time. That was their purpose of bringing China in. You want to be a part of this new world order, you're going to pay for it.
Okay, they're going to pay for it, or we're going to pay for it?
China's going to pay for it with their labor, with their cheap labor.
Oh, well,
because we were broke. We weren't going to be able to pay for it.
That's not paying for it. I mean, that's developing their country. I mean, they're not paying for it.
It does both things.
Yeah. And they have raised their standard of living.
Mm-hmm.
And tremendously.
Yep.
And they have done it because they haven't wasted trillions of dollars on unwinnable foreign wars.
On their welfare state and lots of other things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of...
We've made all kinds of mistakes in the course of this period that I'm describing now.
Are you familiar with the news Zine, The American Conservative? It's... is
that is that Jonas Goldberg?
No.
Who is that?
That's National Review.
Well, no, he has his own magazine.
Oh, okay. No, American Conservative was started by a group of libertarians and paleoconservatives to largely dispute the wars. It has a Christian angle to it. A lot of the columnists there are Christians, but they're not neocons. They're against the neocons. And but Tucker Carlson has recently joined the board, and just in this latest issue, there's an anti-China diatribe accusing them once again of incarcerating over 1 million Uyghurs. There's no proof for that.
Uh-huh.
And all this other stuff. And I was looking at the comments to see what the readers thought. And 9 out of 10 of the comments were against this kind of, one-sided attack on China. And I was kind of gratified to see that. Now, that doesn't mean we're not competitors. Of course we're competitors. But the idea is that, there's a line between competition, free competition, and mercantilism, which is what Adam Smith ranted against, which is when the country, England, at that time it was military imperialism. They went and conquered the world.
Was mercantilism.
Right. But if, for example, all our threats against the Nord Stream 2 with Russia, which is, Angela Merkel is going to take advantage of the electoral confusion, and they're going to finally finish that. It probably will only take a few weeks. It probably will be finished by the time of the inauguration, if there is an inauguration.
Just makes you wonder at this point.
But trying to use dirty tricks, like I'm sure that the Navalny...
Ours or theirs?
Ours. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure that the Navalny poisoning was orchestrated by the U.S. and certain political factions in Germany
that makes
to
sense.
try to stop Nord Stream 2. And this is, all of these political dirty trips are a sign of what right now is modern-day mercantilism. I mean, there's one thing to compete against other countries by figuring out what you're going to do yourself. And it's also to your own economy, to make your economy more efficient. And unfortunately, with government as big and bloated as it is, it's not going to be easy to get rid of it. I mean, look at Biden's appointees. I mean, we're going to go into some of his
I think some of them
appointees.
are clever because they don't have the coattails to the CFR and to the Trilateral Commission. But I would be extremely surprised if they don't have globalist designs.
Who is that?
Notwithstanding their connections to these organizations. Any of them. I'm thinking, who was the woman that is going to be the defense secretary?
Michelle Flournoy?
Yeah, Flournoy.
Yeah,
she actually is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, but
yeah.
most of his picks so far don't have the coattails of the CFR or the Trilateral Commission with which to prove
but they're all partners with Pine Island Capital, and they have a passion for helping defense contractors get through the red tape and bureaucracy and get those juicy contracts.
But what they're trying to do, I think, is disassociate themselves as Gingrich and Jack Keane, who was a contributor to Fox News. He used to be a member of the CFR as well.
Right.
But you can't find his name in the roster now.
Anymore, no.
Yeah. So I think that's what Biden has done, is he's followed this more recent strategy of disassociation with the Council on Foreign Relations and trilateral routes.
Okay, but here's the thing, again, when is what can you do about competition? Now, there is a clash of cultures. We know that ever since the Chinese have been coming here, and as an Irish American, I know the Irish railroad workers complained about the Chinese because they worked harder and for less pay, and so nowadays, I was reading a story about one of the, I think it was Detroit, it could have been Milwaukee, where a black beautician, was upset by all the, lockdowns and everything, and she couldn't pay for it. But she also mentioned that she couldn't operate or own her own shop because she couldn't compete with the Orientals. They're much more efficient, she said.
And hardworking.
They're hardworking. They constantly outperform Caucasian and other, and as well as the minority students in school, and that's just their ethos. That's just their culture. They have a couple of thousand years scratching out a living on those rice paddies, and so that's ingrained in their culture. Whereas other cultures, maybe I don't want to be flip here, but maybe in Africa, all you had to do is reach up and grab some fruit off the tree, and you didn't have to work as hard, and it's not so ingrained in your culture. And what can you say about that kind of competition? I mean, if the Chinese are able to outcompete us for these reasons, not because of their perfidious nature, the yellow pearl, but just because of their culture and the number of people and so on. I mean, that's something we have to adapt to. We are still going to, no matter what happens, whether China becomes number one and we can't, cheer, hey, we're number one, that still doesn't mean we're not a vibrant and growing economy that is going to be extremely important in the world. I mean, we're not going to fade away to nothing. I'm talking about the United States.
United States?
Yeah, we're always going to have markets. But the Chinese, now we don't want, we complain about how they subsidize their businesses, but we subsidize businesses all the time. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And globalism, I'm totally against one world government,
Yeah.
Especially
but they're not.
especially if, well, yeah,
The
they
Chinese leadership is not against it.
Well, that's probably true.
And that's
but,
what they have in common. And that's what they had in common from the outset when Kissinger created this environment with
Right.
which they clearly exploited for their own benefit.
But people push back on China. I mean, China is not sovereign over even Southeast Asia. I mean, the Vietnamese have no fear of the Chinese. I mean, just because you think the Chinese
the Vietnamese,
want,
the Vietnamese have no interest in China at all.
Right. They have no fear, though. They have no.
Well, they're going about their sovereignty.
And so we have to admit we lost the struggle for Eurasia.
Oh, you're going back.
Well,
you're talking about it in the course of the last 50 years?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm talking about that whole.
See, I look at it entirely different. We're in a new era now, or we were, depending upon how Trump plays out this unsettled environment that we're in right now. That's where we are, and so we're in a different context of what you're describing. Now, the only question is, can he pull us through this?
Yeah.
Barbecue, the Butcher's Kitchen, would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Barbecue's open from 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855, Barbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Barbecue Reno.
This overload.
Shannon Lawson here. Join us for the Nevada Radio Roundup, Fridays at 2 p.m. A good news variety show all about the local scene. The Nevada Roundup, Friday at 2.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back. It's Talking Truth to Power. I'm your host, Brendan Trainer, my co-host, Leland Fakhrizadeh. And we were talking a little bit about globalism. Now, one thing I think is globalistic is that we understand that Biden talked to the new president of Japan, and he voluntarily said that he would consider a small group of islands called Senkaku by the Japanese, the Chinese call it something else, as part of our defense umbrella. Mm-hmm. And so we have absolutely no stake in that. Mm-hmm. That is completely globalist. I mean, that is anti-Jacksonian. I mean, why should American lives be put at risk for a bunch of islands that are in dispute between two countries?
Right.
So that's what I'm mostly afraid of. And then I'm afraid of people like the new Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. You know, he is...
yeah. He's been kind of hanging around over the course of time, apparently. And,
right.
But now he's going to be front and center should Biden prevail.
Right, and he is extremely intelligent. You would, if you speak any Yiddish, you would call him a musher or a wheeler dealer.
He has stature.
He attended all the right schools.
But he is apparently not a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, very few of his picks have been associated with them. So I'm not sure if that is because he has disassociated himself with the organization,
right,
which is possible.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, that's a good indicator. I think there are probably a few CFR people that are not globalist. I mean, probably a few.
Well, I think that there are degrees. It's by gradation, right. I'm sure.
Right.
I mean, you can't necessarily say, particularly the way Gingrich, for example, speaks today, that he's a globalist, but yet once upon a time, they asked him to join.
Right.
You know, and you pay your dues to join that organization. So.
Mm-hmm. And, well, anyway, he speaks fluent French, and he even plays jazz. He plays
he's a musician. I got a kick out of that.
Parisian nightclubs.
Yeah.
And so he's considered a Renaissance man, but he's been absolutely wrong
On everything.
On everything.
Yeah.
And he.
Well, they all have been, and that's their
right.
Their history is why.
Yeah. So he was wrong on Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Yemen.
Yeah, name a subject.
And because he's, his Jewish heritage comes out when he says he called the false reports of Assad using gas on his own people a Holocaust, because everything is a Holocaust
right.
to them, right? They have to use that word.
It's obligatory.
Yeah, so we failed because we did not use enough force. That's why we failed.
Sure.
Now,
well, they want to arm Syria again. I mean, that's what this is all about. It's a reversion back to the status quo.
Right.
Horrible.
I know. The other one is Jack Sullivan, National Security Advisor. He's a Clintonista. He was served under Clinton in the White House and the State Department. And he believes in American exceptionalism. So we're going to see how that plays out with a Democrat rather than a Republican.
I just wonder if that's a legitimate description of who he is.
Now, Janet Yellin is interesting because here she's a nice Jewish lady from the Bronx, but she's an inflationist.
Oh, yeah.
And she people are accusing her of not understanding really how bank financing works, but she, because of her academic background, which may or may not be better than all the secretaries of the Treasury we've had that come directly from Goldman Sachs or the other big banks.
Yeah, she doesn't care how much she destroys the currency.
Right.
That's why she's there.
Right. And so
there's not even a pretense of concern.
Yeah. Well, there is. I mean, I bet you she thinks that she's going to help the people by doing what she does.
No, I don't think so. I don't think she's well-intentioned at all.
No, really?
No.
Okay. But so she'll be good for Wall Street, and she'll be good for me and you as gold and silver investors.
Central banking.
Yeah. So she will exacerbate income difference. One reason is that federal inflation figures are notoriously bad about things like household necessities, like food and energy. Mm-hmm. They really don't do a good job of tracking inflation in those areas. Mm-hmm. Maybe in purpose, maybe by design.
Well, but remember, their constituency, it's important to them that their constituents, their followers, are poor and stupid. That's the basic point here. And that's why they want, to reduce the qualifications for voting. I mean, all of these things play into their electoral strategy.
Right. Well, they want to turn America into a democracy, and then democracy will become a global government.
And it won't matter to their constituencies because they don't know the difference.
Right.
It'll happen because they won't even know that it harms them.
So, and then there's Rahm Emanuel, who the progressives really hate Rahm Emanuel. The story is that one time when Biden objected to Obama's surge in Afghanistan, Rahm Emanuel screamed in the meeting that you don't want my son to have his bar mitzvah in Israel. That was his objection to expanding the war.
I know some of these people.
I know. And then there's Neera Tanden. The progressives are really upset about her.
She is a piece of work.
Yes, I know. I mean, she's got that squeaky voice that drives them crazy.
Who does she appeal to in that of those elitists? Do you know? I mean, is it a Clinton thing or?
Right. Yeah. Well, she will oppose every and in the head of Office of Management and Budget they expect that she will oppose any kind of populist government spending that they want. That she will be a deficit hawk, and the Republicans, if they no longer have the White House, the Republicans will suddenly revert to being deficit hawks as well. Instead of spending money left and right,
as they always do.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, but she used to troll the Bernie Sanders and the progressives. And after she was mentioned, she deleted her Twitter accounts. So, in an attempt to hide her, verbal acidity.
Well, she's unstable. Apparently, she took a swing at Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, she claims she just pushed him. They claim she punched him. Yeah.
Yeah. So she fits right in.
Yeah. And then how about Xavier Becerra for Health and Human Services?
Easy for you to say. Not so much for Biden.
He's an ardent open borders, extremely pro-abortionist, meaning, very late term, even
after birth.
Even after birth, if the fetus is still alive, cut it off. Don't make it comfortable, like the government of Virginia said.
Yeah, right. Northam.
Uh-huh. And then he's filed at least 85 suits against Trump, but not one suit against Silicon Valley while he was a California Attorney General.
Huh.
And he definitely wants to dictate what people put into their bodies. I'm sure he approved of that law that did not pass regarding not being able to smoke indoors in your own apartment.
Right.
Unless it's marijuana, then, that's politically correct now, which is amazing. I mean, I don't know. That's just simply amazing. But
well, then, I mean, if you're going to stay in California, how about that DA that's now in Los Angeles from San Francisco?
Right.
You heard about that guy?
Yeah, he's the one with the outdoor dining ban.
Well, he's credited for that, apparently.
Right.
Yeah. Or, I'm not sure how to describe it, actually. At some point, when you make a mistake, you recognize it and you revert back.
Right.
And maybe with an apology.
Right.
Not this crowd.
No. Oh, no, they are absolutely right, and we are wrong.
Yeah.
They have the ultimate monopoly on the truth.
Yeah.
And then there's General Lloyd Austin. Biden wants him to be to win the identitarian lottery as the first black Secretary of Defense. But his record as head of CENTCOM was one of failure after failure after failure.
But he has to pass that civilian test.
Yeah, and that's another problem.
And I don't.
Not only is he incompetent, but he's violating the rules. But of course, the Senate already waived the rules for Mad Dog.
Right. And they shouldn't have. By the way.
No.
But for how many years is that?
7. It's supposed to be 7.
Years. And was it for Mattis?
No, it was about the same, about 4 years.
4
I think.
years.
So, and besides, he's black. But even Senator Warren and some of the Democrats might oppose him. And as far as his confirmation hearing goes, so he's the one that was supposed to withdraw the troops from Iraq during Obama's presidency, but instead,
what happened there?
He did the same thing that they're doing in Afghanistan and they're doing in Syria now. He just dithered and kept trying to get extensions, and then when he finally withdrew, he had not completed the core part of his assignment, which was to build up the Iraqi defense forces. So naturally, there was the infamous power vacuum that, Obama left too early, the conservatives said.
I guess we're going to have to stay.
Yeah. So then ISIS grew out of all that, and then he bombed Mosul to smithereens, completely reduced the city. It's still unlivable, in order to claim that he defeated the very entity that he helped create.
Yeah.
That's how they work.
That's how they operate.
Yeah.
No exceptions.
At Northern Nevada Family Dental, we are proud to announce a wide range of advanced dental services by way of the...
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power in this holiday season. Leland and I again want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, well, happy holidays to you all.
Yeah, something secular.
Yes.
Is that where you're going with that?
Yes, exactly.
I've got red on today. Does that count?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you know that Jill Biden, according to Wikipedia, is an agnostic realist?
I did not.
That's her religion, or lack of thereof. So that would be interesting if she holds to that if she is first lady.
And are there vicars to that philosophy? I mean, how does that work exactly?
Well, there are a lot of good debates on YouTube over the existence or non-existence of the deity. Did you know that? The atheist community in Austin is very active on YouTube.
Austin, Texas?
Yeah. It's very interesting. But anyway, we do want to talk about Iran and what happened to their nuclear scientist.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I can pronounce his name. I have it as Mohsen Fakhrizadeh.
I'll go with that.
All right. And he was assassinated in his limo in Iran. At first, it was thought that it was a Hollywood-style drive-by motorcyclist shooting up the vehicle, but it turns out it was much more
very sophisticated.
Precise. Yeah. They had somebody put a automatic weapon with an electronic link on it, which both Israel and the U.S. have now, in case you were wondering. But so it was probably done with some help on the ground. I understand the Iranians did arrest some people.
Had to have been help on the ground.
But the action itself came from a satellite, is the theory, that the gun was triggered by facial recognition and a satellite trigger, and it was extremely precise. They hit the scientist 3 times. One of the bullets severed his spine, but the only reason why his bodyguard was injured was because he jumped on top of him to try and save him, and his wife was in the car, and she wasn't hit at all. So it was extremely precise. Kind of scary about what they can do these days. But at any rate,
especially inside of Iran itself.
Right, inside of Iran.
Very interesting.
And there's no evidence, there's no evidence that Iran has a nuclear weapons program.
No.
We know that they looked into it in the early 80s because...
They fantasize having one.
Yeah, they fantasize. Well, they were concerned because at that time they were being attacked by Iraq, and Saddam Hussein was using gas on them, and they heard through the U.S. That he was possibly going to develop a nuke, and so they were really looking into developing a nuclear weapon for a few years in the early 80s to counter Iraq. And there's no reason that it got beyond the research stage. Mm-hmm. This scientist was supposedly now working on laser guidance systems for its Iran's anti-aircraft systems, not nuclear at all.
And even its program, which is apparently entirely underground, would give legitimacy to a program that, in fact, has no basis,
Yes.
because we can't see it.
But what we do know is that Israel is afraid of, and we are too, come to think of it. We had a general that just came out and said that we have a great deal of respect for Iran's conventional capabilities.
Yes, I saw that quote.
Yeah.
Very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so what they're really afraid of is not Iran's nuclear power, but they want to control Iran's legitimate. I would think that anybody that looks at it impartially, Iran is a major country. It has legitimate interests in the region. The Shia are that is the center of Shia Islam. It's right around the Persian Gulf there. And so the other countries, like the Sunni feudal countries that are basically run by elites, Saudi Arabia has a strong minority of Shia, and they are actually mostly live right over the oil. Bahrain is also a strong majority Shia population ruled by a Sunni elite. And so, and then Israel, of course. Iran is the only country now that's still unequivocally stands up for the rights of the Palestinians.
So it's primarily the conventional forces that concerns the status quo.
When they retaliated against the killing of General Soleimani, we don't know how many Americans were actually injured and sent to Europe, to hospitals.
Right.
And when they attacked, or when they supposedly, probably Iran, attacked Saudi's oil facilities, those were precision strikes. So Iran has capabilities in the Gulf that, even though we like to brag that we're the greatest military in the world, they can just blow up the Middle East as far as oil production and so on. So this whole nuclear deal with Iran, it's just a subterfuge to try and put them in a box. Now that's what Biden's team is going. They want to put Iran back in the box. Well,
they're already in a box.
Yeah, they're already in a box, and they're just trying to assert their regional hegemony as far as that goes. I mean, they have no, they have no intention of actually invading Israel unless Israel attacks them, or unless
it would be folly for them.
Israel convinces us to attack them.
Yeah, in their interest, yeah.
And that's what Bibi has been doing lately. I mean, Bibi has been strongly trying to get President Trump to jeopardize his legacy
they're
by
our
attacking
only ally
Iran.
in the Middle East.
Yeah, they're our only ally. With allies like that, who needs enemies? I mean, so, it's...
So you're saying they want us to do their bidding for them, is what
right. That's exactly right. And then when there's one world government...
I thought you said we weren't going to do a Jews in the news segment.
Well, we're not. We didn't officially. I'm trying to be ADL compliant here.
I see. Okay.
But that's the whole thing with, taking away our freedom of speech, attacking Americans for the BDS, and, just attacking, identifying anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. That's their whole philosophy there, and their whole construct. And then also David Ben-Gurion said, when there is one world government, Jerusalem will be the seat of the world Supreme Court.
He must have seen the plans.
Well, they have
talked like he did.
Yeah, they have a philosophy called Tiki Un, I think it is. Excuse me if I don't have the Yiddish exactly right, but that is the idea that the Jewish people are the most just people on the planet. Mm-hmm. Although some people would say that the opposite is true.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely some conflict on that subject.
So, and at any rate, we'll see if Biden can, if he gets in, or if Trump gets back in, what's going to come of all this? Because Donald has given them everything. He's given Bibi everything he wants, and Sheldon Adelson here, everything they want except war. Yeah. That is no can do up to this point.
But apparently he didn't contribute to Trump's campaign much, from what I
This time around,
yeah.
Well, they've had a bit of a falling out. I think it started in 2016 when the Democrats came back and took the House. Yeah. So
18, yeah.
2018, yeah. So and they, even though Putin had Bibi visit him in Moscow for the World Cup finals, Putin doesn't kiss their, tukuses. He doesn't, he's friendly with Israel, but he's also very friendly with the Palestinians. He tries to be neutral, and that's not good enough,
Yeah.
And that's one reason why they hate Russia. Mm-hmm. So we'll just...
got to take sides, man.
Yeah, I know. You've got to have clarity, and nobody brought any more clarity to most of the world's situation than Donald Trump did. Whatever happens, if he prevails on this challenge or not, he is nothing but the great clarifier. He exposes all the chinks in their armor, which Biden now wants to paper over again.
Exactly.
Yeah, he wants the upper middle class whites that voted for him to go back to sleep, go back to brunch, forget about anything else. And we're going to have to see if the progressives, and I don't agree with the progressives. I don't agree with Medicare for all, or many of the other platforms that the progressives have, but at least they call out the globalism on occasion. And, so we should try
I don't think they do it with a clarity. I don't think they understand it really.
No. That's basically...
Otherwise, they'd be on our side.
Yeah, if we get the right people in there, then it's, Well, they want the progressives... Oh, we're almost out. We'll take this up again.
You know what? We didn't talk about Fang Fang.
No.
Eric Swalwell and Fang Fang.
Yeah.
Well, there's just not enough time in this show. That's right.